I always trusted my wife. But when she started smiling at her phone a little too often and grabbing coffee a little too regularly, something didn't sit right. So I followed her. What I found broke more than my heart. Before we get into the story, please consider subscribing to the channel. It helps me share more unique and personal stories with you. Now let's get started. Hey, my name's Ryan. I'm 35, born and raised in Madison, Wisconsin. I work full-time as a diesel mechanic, and I've been at the same garage for about 12 years now. It's not the most glamorous job in the world, but it's honest work, and I've always taken pride in getting my hands dirty. My wife, Emily, is 33. She's a registered nurse at the local hospital, works long shifts, sometimes nights, sometimes weekends. We've been married for a little over 7 years, and we were together for 3 before that. No kids yet, though we had been having those kinds of talks recently. Talks about settling down more seriously, maybe buying a bigger house, seeing what life would be like with a little one running around. From the outside looking in, we probably seemed like one of those couples who had it all figured out. The kind of people who other couples point at and say, "See, that's what we're aiming for." And for a while, I think we were. We laughed a lot. I mean, really laughed. At dumb things like stupid memes we'd send each other, or how bad I was at folding laundry, or how she always managed to burn grilled cheese sandwiches even after a decade of trying. We had movie nights with popcorn and cheap wine, road trips to random cabins up north, date nights where we'd spend way too much money and pretend we weren't watching our bank accounts. I thought we had a rhythm, a bond. Even when things got busy, her back-to-back shifts, my weekend overtime, we always made time for each other. We didn't really fight, not in any serious way. There were little spats here and there. She got annoyed that I left dirty socks near the couch. I got irritated when she would fall asleep with the TV blaring at full volume. You know, normal married couple stuff. Nothing dramatic. Nothing that ever made me think we weren't solid. But then, somewhere around 6 months ago, something started to feel off. It wasn't like some big event or screaming match. No cheating bombshell, no late-night phone call from a stranger. Just little things. She started going out for coffee more often than usual. At first, it was once every week or so. Meeting a friend from work, she'd say. I didn't question it. Emily's always been social, and she doesn't have a lot of free time, so I figured she was just unwinding. But then it became more frequent, like 2 or 3 times a week. Always someone from work, always just coffee, and always quick to brush it off if I asked for details. Then she started taking her phone everywhere, to the bathroom, to the laundry room. She used to leave it lying around, but now she kept it in her pocket or turned face down on the table. Once I walked into the kitchen and saw her quickly swipe something closed on the screen and tuck the phone away. She looked up and smiled like nothing had happened, but there was something in her eyes that didn't match the smile. I told myself I was overthinking. I mean, people get protective of their phones, right? It's not that unusual these days. But the way she'd grin at her texts, this soft, secretive little smile, started to get under my skin. It wasn't the smile she gave me. One night we were watching TV and she got a message. She read it, smiled, and turned the screen away slightly. I laughed and said, "Who's texting you with that face?" She kind of rolled her eyes and said, "A friend, don't be jealous." I smiled back. But I think that's the moment I really started to wonder, because I was jealous. Or maybe not jealous, maybe just uncomfortable. Like something I had always believed was solid now had a crack in it. A hairline fracture I couldn't stop noticing. I didn't want to be the suspicious husband. I've seen what jealousy does to people. It makes them paranoid, bitter, controlling, and I never wanted to be that guy. But still, I couldn't shake the feeling. Then came the night that changed everything. It was a Thursday. She said she was grabbing a coffee after work with Brandon. I had never heard of Brandon. When I asked who he was, she said, "Just a guy from work. He's on the ICU team. Cool guy." I asked if I could pick her up after since I was already running errands nearby. She hesitated. Just for a second. Then she said, No, don't worry about it. It'll be quick. And she smiled. That damn smile again. That was the moment something clicked for me. I didn't argue. I just said, okay, have fun. But inside, my brain was already spinning. Something didn't feel right. It didn't look right. So when she left that evening, I waited 10 minutes, grabbed my keys, and got in the car. I didn't have a plan. I didn't know what I was going to do or say. I just knew I had to see. I had to know. So yeah, I followed my wife. I told myself maybe I'd feel stupid afterwards. Maybe she really was just getting coffee with a coworker. Maybe I would be in the wrong. But the truth is, a part of me already knew what I was going to find. I just didn't want to believe it yet.
It was cold that evening, around 6:45 p.m. The sun had already dipped below the horizon, and the streets were wet from a light drizzle earlier. I parked my truck a block away from the coffee shop she mentioned, the Roast House, a trendy little cafe near the hospital she worked at. I turned off the engine, pulled my cap low, and waited. Her shift usually ended around 7, so I figured I had time. I kept thinking, what the hell are you doing? You really gonna spy on your own wife? But the thing is, I didn't feel like I was spying. I felt like I was finally opening my eyes. Around 7:10, I saw her. She walked up to the cafe from the other end of the block, still in her scrubs, but with a coat thrown over them. And right behind her was him. Brandon, I assumed. Tall guy, beard, wearing dark jeans and a fitted jacket. I recognized him vaguely. I think I'd seen him once at a hospital staff BBQ. They laughed about something before even getting inside. I didn't hear it, obviously, but her smile told me enough. It was that same smile. They grabbed a corner table, and I stayed parked with my seat tilted back just enough to see through the side window. I watched them talk and lean in closer. His hand brushed hers at one point. She didn't pull away. She laughed. She looked alive in a way I hadn't seen in weeks, months maybe, and it crushed me. The coffee lasted almost an hour, and when they stood up, I assumed that was it, that I just caught them flirting, maybe emotionally cheating at worst. I felt sick, yeah, but part of me was relieved it hadn't gone further, until I watched them cross the street, side by side, still laughing, still in that world I wasn't part of. And then they stopped beside his car. I recognized the make from before, a dark blue Subaru parked right across from me. I sunk down in my seat as far as I could without losing sight. She looked around, glanced once, twice. Then he unlocked the car. She hesitated. He opened the door. She got in. My chest tightened. I wanted to get out, bang on the window, scream, but I couldn't move. I just sat there, frozen, staring. His car didn't pull away right away. It just sat there, engine running, windows fogged. 5 minutes, 10. I didn't need to see more. I knew what that meant. I started my truck and drove off before I did something stupid. My hands were shaking on the steering wheel the whole way home. I wanted answers, but not in a parking lot, not when emotions were boiling. I needed time to think, time to figure out who the hell I was even married to. She came home late that night. I was on the couch pretending to watch some documentary. She gave me a kiss on the cheek and said, "Sorry it took longer. Brandon had a rough shift and needed to talk." I nodded, said, "All good." But inside I was screaming. I knew everything now, and the scariest part? She lied to my face without even blinking.
The next few days were the hardest I've lived through without saying a word. I woke up, got dressed, went to work, came home, made small talk, smiled when I had to, pretended like nothing was wrong. But every minute I spent around her felt like I was trapped in a room slowly filling with smoke. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't sleep. I'd lie next to her in bed, her back turned to me, and just stare at the ceiling, wondering how much of our life was real and how much had been a performance. And yet I still didn't confront her. I couldn't, not yet. I needed to be sure. I needed something more than a fogged up car window in my gut. So I started watching, quietly. I checked our shared Google Calendar. She was still putting her shifts on there, and I cross-referenced them with her actual movements. One day she said she'd be on a 12-hour shift, but when I drove by the hospital after work, her car wasn't there. That same evening, she came home with her hair down, her makeup fresh, and her mood suspiciously light for someone who had supposedly worked with terminal patients all day. I checked our phone bill, something I hadn't done in years, and I noticed one number popping up often, mostly after midnight or around her breaks. It had to be his, so I called it. I didn't say anything when he answered, just listened to him say, "Hello," a few times before I hung up. I just needed to hear his voice, and I recognized it. It was him, Brandon. I kept that information to myself. I didn't want to explode. I wanted to be methodical. I don't know what came over me, but I became someone I didn't recognize. I started digging through drawers when she was in the shower, scanning receipts in her purse, checking bank transactions. And that's when I found it. A hotel charge. Just one. Not expensive, not far, about 20 minutes out of town. The date? A week ago, on a day she claimed she had mandatory training at work. I remember holding the receipt in my hand like it was a loaded gun. My palms were sweating. I put it back carefully, exactly where I found it, and that night, I didn't sleep at all. The next morning, I told her I'd be working late. Instead, I drove to the hotel. I asked the front desk girl if someone named Brandon had been a guest there recently. She gave me a tired look and said she couldn't give out information like that. I said I understood. Then I described him. Tall, beard, drives a blue Subaru. She hesitated, then nodded, barely. "Yeah, he comes here sometimes, with a woman, blonde." That was all I needed. My stomach twisted. I thanked her and walked out. I sat in my car for a long time, just gripping the wheel, trying to decide what to do. I wasn't even angry. I was numb. I felt like I was floating outside my own life, watching someone else's marriage fall apart like a slow-motion car crash. When I finally went home that night, I made dinner like usual. She kissed me on the cheek, told me her day had been long, said Brandon got yelled at by a supervisor for something minor. I nodded along, trying not to throw up. She had no idea I knew, and that made me realize something that terrified me more than the affair itself. She was good at this. Too good. She'd done this before. Maybe not with him, maybe not even physically, but emotionally, mentally, she'd learned how to compartmentalize. How to build a life around someone and still lie straight to their face while smiling sweetly. It made me question everything. Did she ever love me the way I loved her? Or was I just convenient, a warm body who paid half the bills and made her laugh sometimes? I started rehearsing what I would say when I confronted her. I practiced in the mirror, tried out versions where I was calm, where I was furious, where I cried, but nothing felt right. I didn't want closure. I wanted truth. And more than that, I wanted her to feel something. Guilt, regret, anything. So I made a plan. I wasn't going to scream, I wasn't going to beg, I was going to show her exactly what I knew, and I was going to watch her world crumble the way mine had.
Friday night. I picked Friday night because I knew she'd be relaxed, off guard. I cooked her favorite. Creamy garlic pasta, toasted bread, a little side salad she always said she liked, even though she never finished it. I even poured her a glass of that overpriced red she buys on holidays. I wanted everything to feel warm, normal, familiar. I wanted her comfortable, because when I dropped the truth, I wanted to see the real reaction. Not defense, not panic, just raw, unfiltered emotion. She came home around 6:30, smiling, said the hospital was chaotic as hell, but that she was glad the weekend had finally started. She kissed me like nothing was wrong, went to the bedroom to change into one of my hoodies like she always did, and plopped onto the couch with her wine like it was any other night. We ate dinner, she talked, I listened. She mentioned Brandon in passing, said he had a meltdown earlier when a patient coded. My heart thumped when she said his name so casually, so naturally, like she hadn't spent God knows how many hours with him behind my back. I nodded along, pretended to care, but inside I was watching everything. The way she moved, the way her voice cracked when she lied, the flicker in her eyes when she brought him up. She didn't suspect a thing. After dinner, she started cleaning up, but I told her to leave the dishes, said I'd take care of it later. She gave me that soft little smile I used to love. Then she sat back down with her glass, curled her legs up, and asked, "You okay? You're quiet tonight." That was my moment. I looked her dead in the eyes and asked, "Do you believe I love you?" She blinked, taken off guard. She smiled a little and said, "Yeah, of course. Why?" I said nothing, just reached into my hoodie pocket and pulled out my phone. I opened the photos, grainy but clear enough. Her and Brandon outside the cafe, her laughing, leaning in, him opening his car door, her getting inside. I slid the phone across the table slowly like it weighed 100 pounds. She stared at it, confused at first. Then I watched the color drain from her face. She froze, eyes locked on the screen, and I knew in that moment there was no denying it. No lie she could spin, no clever excuse. "I was there," I said quietly. "I saw everything." She didn't speak, not for a long time, just sat there, holding the glass like her hands had forgotten how to move. I kept going. My voice didn't even shake. I was so far past anger, so numb I felt like I was narrating someone else's life. "You lied to my face. You said it was just coffee. You said I was being jealous. You made me feel like I was going crazy." Still no response, just a faint tremble in her jaw. I pulled up the phone records next, scrolled to the number, showed her the timestamps. Midnight, 2 a.m., lunch breaks. I said, "I called him just to hear his voice, just to be sure. It was him." She whispered finally, barely audible, "Ryan." But I didn't want to hear it, not yet. I pulled out the final piece, the hotel receipt I had found folded in her purse. "Training day, huh?" I said, "You really thought I wouldn't notice?" Her lips started to tremble. She opened her mouth but couldn't form anything. Just sat there, blinking rapidly, trying to speak, and I watched her carefully. I wanted to see remorse. I wanted her to crack open and fall apart, but instead I saw calculation. Like her mind was spinning, trying to find the angle. And that shattered something deep in me. "You were never going to tell me, were you?" She finally spoke. "I didn't want to hurt you." I laughed. I actually laughed, sharp and bitter. "You didn't want to hurt me? You've been sneaking around with him for how long now? 3 months? More? And you sit here drinking wine I paid for, wearing my hoodie, and talk about not wanting to hurt me?" She started crying then, soft, almost controlled, like it was more for her than for me. I stood up. I couldn't sit anymore. I felt like the walls were closing in, like I'd explode if I didn't move. I walked to the sink, turned on the water just to hear something, other than her quiet sniffles. She didn't come after me, didn't plead, just sat there. That's when I knew it was really over. Not just the cheating, not just the betrayal, but the us part. The part where I thought we were a team, where I thought no matter what, we'd fight for each other. But there was no fight in her, no desperation, just defeat, or guilt, or maybe just the end. I turned off the water, walked back toward her, said, "You need to decide what you're going to do. Because I won't live like this. I won't be lied to. I won't share my wife with anyone else." She didn't argue, just nodded slowly, and that was it. That was how the silence between us began.
The silence that followed that night lasted days. We coexisted under the same roof like strangers in a waiting room. No fighting, no yelling, not even questions. Just silence. She slept in the guest room, and I didn't ask her to leave. I didn't have the strength to make big decisions right away. I still had to go to work, still had to fix engines and smile at customers, while everything inside me felt broken and numb. The hardest part wasn't the betrayal. It was the loss of reality. Waking up and realizing that the person you built your life with has already mentally left you behind, that's a different kind of pain. One morning, I walked into the kitchen and found a letter sitting on the counter. Not a text, not a voice message, a handwritten letter. She said she was going to stay with her sister for a while, said she understood if I wanted to end things, said she was sorry, not just for what she did, but for who she had become. I read it twice. I didn't cry, I didn't get angry. I just sat down at the table and stared at nothing for a long time. I could have torn it up, could have thrown it away, but I kept it. Not because I forgave her, but because I needed to remind myself that this was real, that this actually happened. Over the next couple of weeks, I started reclaiming the house in small ways. I washed her coffee mug and put it in a box. I changed the sheets. I took down our framed wedding photo from the hallway and placed it in a drawer. Not out of hate, just survival. I needed to make the space mine again, even though everything in it reminded me of her. She tried to contact me a few times, texts mostly. Once she called and I let it ring. I wasn't ready, and I didn't know what she expected. Forgiveness? Maybe. Reconciliation? Probably. But I couldn't give her that. At least not now. Maybe not ever. My family found out eventually. My brother asked if I wanted to stay with him for a while. My mom offered to come over and help with the house. Everyone was supportive, but there was no real comfort in it. People mean well, but they can't crawl inside your chest and pull the ache out. That's your own mess to carry. I started going on long drives just to clear my head. One night I ended up by the lake where we had our third date. Sat on the hood of my truck, listening to the water and trying to remember who I was before all of this. Before trust was something I had to question. Before I ever thought about tracking someone I loved. That's the part that still gets me. I didn't just lose a wife. I lost a version of myself. One that believed in something simple, clean, and safe. It's been a few months now. She's still staying with her sister, last I heard. We've exchanged a few polite messages about the house, bills, paperwork. The divorce hasn't been filed yet, but we both know it's coming. We don't say it, we just live around it. Like a fracture in the wall no one mentions anymore. People keep asking me if I'll ever be able to trust someone again. Honestly, I don't know. I want to say yes. I want to believe that this is just one chapter in a long book and that love will look different and better someday. But right now, I'm still in recovery mode. Still figuring out who I am without her. Still learning to sleep on one side of the bed and not expect anyone beside me. Still noticing the little things. Her shampoo smell that lingers, the extra toothbrush I haven't thrown out yet, the Spotify playlists we used to share. Healing isn't linear. Some days I feel okay, some days I feel like I'm drowning. But at least now, it's my ocean, and I can swim in it at my own pace. If you made it this far, thank you. I didn't share this story for pity or sympathy. I shared it because sometimes hearing someone else's truth helps you sit with your own. So if you've ever been where I've been, or you're there now, I see you. And I promise, you'll survive this, one quiet morning at a time.